and yeah, perfect. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Hartford's Claims as a Differentiator webinar hosted by Stuckey and Company. It's 1 o'clock, right on the nose. We're going to go ahead and get started, go through a few things, introduce some of our products, and then get into Josh and the claims webinar. First, on the right-hand side, if you have any questions or you want to chat, use the chat or the questions area. We're going to try to get to some questions after the webinar. If we don't get to all of them, we'll follow up by email or voice. I will send a link to the recording of the webinar as well as the PowerPoint. So you'll get that later on this afternoon. We also have some other small commercial marketing material, an appetite guide, a thresholds sheet, which gives you an idea of what type of business that we like to write. So in 2018, Stuckey and Company is celebrating 27 years as an MGA, offering our agents access to solid A-rated carriers like MetLife and Safeco and Travelers, and specifically we have just an excellent relationship with the Hartford and everybody there, small commercial, middle market, the claims guys, all the way through, you name it, even the Maxim surplus lines carrier that they just bought. We have 9 specialty programs. We offer what's called a 151 promise, which is any service request or quote proposal that is complete, we'll turn around in less than a day, basically half a day. So in by 1, out by 5, in by 5, out by 1 the next day. As you would imagine, an MGA does pretty much everything in the kind of insurance value chain, I guess. We create the programs. If they're not brought to us, we underwrite to them. Sometimes we follow the rates and rules with the states. We rate, quote, bind, issue policies, endorse, renew, invoice, obviously, we report. We integrate our carriers into our carrier systems as well as our insurance agency systems. We'll work on the claims, marketing, and training. These are the 8 of the programs. Safety Tech, which is a technology E&O product, we've managed since 1996. Aspire A&E is for architects and engineers. Harbor Guard for marinas and boat dealerships. A miscellaneous professional liability product. We have Element, which is a green energy insurance program. We write home, auto, boat, and high-value home through our personal lines program. We have a commercial lines product that this presentation addresses for BOP, comp, auto, bonds, even EPLI, D&O, all that stuff, international, and surplus lines market. So if it falls outside of the personal or commercial lines, we automatically submit it through our personal lines department. So as I was sending emails out, sometimes I'll get some interesting responses, signing up people, and I'll tell you a story as I'm switching over to Josh and his presentation. There we go. And I didn't tell Josh this, but I came across an agent that said, I don't like to be cynical, Dwight, but I'm yet to hear any insurance company claim anything other than uniquely superior claim service. But I'm yet to see it in 50 years in the business. As evidence, he said, name one specific thing other than generalized huff and puff that sets the Hartford operation apart from the others. And, I honestly, I love that response through email when he got that invitation. And the reason I love it is because I literally, I don't think I could really name, I didn't think I could name one thing. It was a ton of things that kind of added up to superior service and whatnot. But if I were to name one, it would be passion. John, Kenny, Josh, and everybody at the claims organization at the Hartford is just passionate about it. And it's hard to describe. I've never seen it in my 27 years. This agent had never seen it in his 50 years. But I really believe in the claims organization. And I hope Josh kind of shows you a piece of that today. So with that, Josh, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Dwight. Dwight, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, thanks for the introduction, Dwight. I appreciate everybody's time on the phone today. Just to kind of give you some background for anybody who doesn't know. So I work in a team at the Hartford called Claims Sales and Service. And really what we do is we're a very small group that is kind of the go-between between our underwriting and our agency partners, and then our internal claim staff. And so basically with Stuckey having the VIP status that they do with the Hartford, I am actually aligned with that part of the state of the country. And so Dwight basically has a bat phone. And so if anybody who places business with him and he has anything he's wondering about or he needs more information on, I am actually here as a sole point of contact for all lines of business for Dwight or anybody else at Stuckey that may have a question or needs some assistance with something. Whether that's data, statistics, a claim, whatever that is. So that's kind of our relationship, and so I lead that into leveraging data. So and I'll get through this in 10 minutes or so, and I know everybody's busy, so appreciate your time, but just wanted to these items, these differentiators are things that I would reach out to Stuckey and our VIP agents and talk about, hey, here's what's going on in our program. And so really what it is that you'll hear a lot of carriers talk about some of these buzzwords for the year and different things that are going on, one of them being data analytics. And so like Dwight had mentioned before, John Kinney, who is our chief claim officer, great man, is so passionate about claim service and has really provided us the support from a senior level to stay ahead of the curve. And so that's where a lot of these programs come from and why we're constantly trying to look at the latest and greatest ways to stay ahead and, make more profitable programs and be more competitive. So I'll dive into this. So you'll hear buzzwords. Dwight, can you guys see my screen now? You see 3 million data points?
I do, yep.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure we're on the same. So today, as John Kinney undertook this initiative, we went out and we realized we got to stay ahead of the curve. And so today, what we did is he made a significant investment into a team of what we call mad scientists who basically sit in a room and pump all types of data into a funnel, if you will. And so I'll toggle to this. We put this slide in the deck just to kind of simply give you an idea. You'll hear people talk about data, but this is actually tactically how we're using it and what we're doing with it. And so it actually comes from, if you look for the left there, it's really a combination of everything. It's claim file notes that go in every day. It's social media scans that we're out there scanning, claimants, social medias. It's documents that we get. So it's every telephone call we get that's coming in to a Hartford office. And so what they're doing is they essentially, without getting into too much detail, are creating a matrix is probably the best way I can explain it behind the scenes, where we put it all into a funnel, and ultimately what we have, the output is just simply predictive modeling. Now, a lot of people use those buzzwords, but I will tell you, based on that data that we're using every day, we like to show you a couple of real life examples. And so imagine it goes in here from the left, comes out on the right, down here in the predictive modeling output. And so I want to show you two tactical examples. So the first is workers' comp. And So imagine so let's just hypothetically speaking, without getting into too much of the detail behind it, but imagine that these scientists who build algorithms decide that there are 5 variables that ultimately lead to, if these 5 things happen in the first 30 days, we know statistically this claim is going to be $1 million. So imagine that. So what we're doing on the workers' comp side is that we're taking a proactive approach. So we're flagging those claims, we're putting them in through the system. And so on a weekly basis, we're actually coming up with what we call, it's considered a volatility report. Some of them are 100% valid, they're truly, horrible, catastrophic claims. And unfortunately, that's the roadmap they're on is probably cannot be impacted much just due to the severity. But it's a healthy other percentage that we look at that. And so it could be things like you're given a narcotic prescription in your first 2 weeks, the type of injury, you're diabetic, you have other comorbid factors, things such as that. And so what we're doing is the actual tactical application of that is that we're sending that to each of the offices around the country. And we're saying, hey, here's a list. Here are 5 claims this week that have all the red flags to be $1 million claim at some point down the road. And so what we're doing is that we're able to set up a roundtable, intervene, figure out what's the game plan. Is there a different roadmap? What can we do? And obviously, we're all in business to be profitable, but outside of that, it's obviously, our bigger concern is, what can we do to positively impact somebody's life who's, because if you have $1 million claim, chances are your life's changed drastically and probably not for the better. And so, part of that is the human element, is that, what can we do as a company to intervene and to positively impact those folks who have been, unfortunately caught up in an accident, some type of industrial accident for some reason. So, so that's one example. The other I'll use is subrogation. So I'm sure most carriers, you come in, you have a process, and so, you get rear-ended by a car, clear liability, and, we're going to probably go back and subrogate and get, whatever our costs were from the other carrier normally. Outside of that, so let's call that low-hanging fruit. Let's call those easy subrogation claims. The matrix here, if you will, is, it's kind of a subsequent review. And so it's things that came in the door. They don't have a clear responsible party or a third party that is very obvious that we're going to pursue. These were kind of secondary reviews behind the scenes. And through that data mining that we talked about, so whether it was a file note or it was an email or whatever it was, we picked up on the fact that there could be some other party responsible for this that we found out after the fact. So as we run that secondary search behind the scenes, our savings alone in the first year we piloted it, we saved $7.5 million. Now that's $7.5 million on top of the normal everyday subrogation claims that we expect to recover on a daily basis. So I use those as tactical examples, and in the big scheme of things, is $10 million significant to the industry? It's probably not, but it can be really significant and extremely significant. If you're the small business owner, or you're the small regional company that's got a couple of operations, and those dollars can be significant across the board and very, very impactful for that individual or that company. And the big benefit here is that, we don't isolate this data mining to any type of customer. This is just an aggregation of Hartford data. So we're doing it on our national accounts. We're doing it on our small commercial customers. We're doing it on personal lines. And so obviously there's no upfront cost to any of this. This is just data that we're analyzing and trying to use, the overall massive amount of numbers we have to positively impact everybody. So I'll go forward to a couple other things, and I won't spend too much time on fraud. I think everybody knows that, fraud is profound in the industry. It's hard to put a number on. Obviously Hartford is in these fraud groups with other national carriers. But the average cost, I mean, $10,000 for one claim, and 100,000 possibly for a ring. Really, the thing that I want to highlight here is that, a lot of people are looking for fraud, but we actually have an entire fraud team that's a standalone team that does nothing but look at these algorithms every day to try to identify, where are the red flags, where are the outliers, where are the common denominators across the board where we're starting to see that, we feel like people with ulterior motives are trying to infiltrate, the claim space and take advantage of our customers. And so really, really impactful. They say, just to put a number out there, if you went to, some of the national studies, they would tell you that, fraud, they say, accounts for at least 10% of the industry spend, and it's probably more than any one hurricane. And if you think about the $125 billion from Katrina and Harvey, it's a significant amount of money, especially if your small customer has one claim and that happens to be the claim that these individuals are trying to take advantage of. So it's front and center for us, and we'll continue to fight it every day with technology. Another example too that I think sometimes people underestimate is something we call right coding. So imagine that funnel again, and we're putting tons of medical data in. I'm not sure if everybody fully grasps the impact of medical upcoding, but essentially what that is it is doctors' offices who, just to use an example, ultimately use a initial visit because it's costs more money typically because you're doing more early tests, or you're doing a little bit additional review because it's your first time meeting a customer and trying to get a better understanding. And then a subsequent visit, right? You would expect those subsequent visits when you've been with your primary care doctor for a while to go faster because they know who you are. And so what we find is that as we started to look through all this and to unwind it, we found that 36% of all bills we receive medically required a code adjustment. So what we find is that some of these billing companies will go in and they'll code an initial visit on a subsequent, and while it's only $75 more hypothetically, they're getting away with this across the board. And so as we started to see some of these things, this is why we put some of these task force in place and started doing more analysis around the data, because the overall impact is huge, especially if you only have a few claims a year. So I'm sorry, went through. So I'll pause at that. I don't want to. Dwight, you want to step in and see if we have any questions? I don't know if anybody submitted any. I'll step back for a second and pause.
Yeah, you bet. So I think this agent is maybe has seen one of the other webinars that we've done, but he wanted us to speak to the consulting nurses that help review the assigned and review the claims.
Yeah.
After they had been identified by the data. You know what I mean? Like what's done? Is somebody assigned, or is it just kind of still, is it sending out emails, or how's that handled, I guess?
Sure. So yeah, so what's happening is so as these let's just say the volatility report, and these are obviously some of the bigger claims. So as they're being screened behind the scenes, they're going to a home office consultant that works with each of the offices on the more critical claims. And so what they're doing is they're taking that, they're filtering that down into the field, and then those individuals can either, we can do a couple things. If it warrants full nurse case management, we may assign a nurse full time. They also have the ability to ask them to do like a spot check, or a review. Can you take a look at this and tell me, what direction should we go? Does there need to be a different roadmap for this person? So we have a couple options. We can do them full time. We can do them part time. If I say part time, I just mean going in and maybe checking on one thing or answering a set of questions for somebody. But we always have that medical expertise. And then outside of that, if we feel like we're not getting enough traction with the doctor, another recommendation may be, we may obtain a nurse to go out and talk to the doctor in person if we feel like we need some additional conversation that we're not getting in the medical reports. So several options. We leave it up to that claim office at that point and that supervisor to decide what's best.
Right on. So I'm assuming that sometimes can reduce the amount of opioids or increase the amount of physical therapy or something like that, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, we're constantly looking at it for, justification, validation of what's being prescribed. I mean, because I think we all have an ethical obligation to question, because we've seen a lot of people's lives get ruined by, medical treatment that they never intended to get. And to be in that spot. And so I think it's a healthy balance of, getting them to what they need, but also, having to have honest conversations to make sure we keep everybody honest.
Right on. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions around that? Dwight, I don't know if anybody else submitted any, or if you want to open the floor up.
Yeah, so no more questions at this point, but
Okay.
definitely, if anybody has any questions, please, present them to Josh, and he's an excellent source.
Absolutely. Feel free, if you have any questions, you need to reach me. Feel free. Dwight has my information. I talk to Dwight on a weekly basis. So if anybody needs anything, any support for your agencies, or any questions I can help answer about the Hartford claim programs, feel free to reach out anytime.
Right on. Well, thank you, Josh. Maybe maybe this is a point where I can just kind of put out there some of the types of businesses that we insure with Hartford Small Commercial. We do retail, wholesale, manufacturing, service classes. We write the comp on restaurants and hotels, manufacturing risks, professional offices, doctors' offices, and things like that. Now, we aren't going to get into it here, but I want to make sure that, I'll send out the thresholds sheet that shows the amount of payroll that we can write as well, which goes up to like $50 million. So these are they're not small accounts. And I don't know if Josh mentioned it today, but literally, the smallest of all small accounts that we get in, they get the same claim service as an Amazon would. So So here are the contacts at Stuckey and Company for the commercial lines, professional lines, and personal lines. Kerry in our office, he's my brother. He manages the Hartford contract and does an excellent job with filtering some of those and answering the questions. He also has contact with Josh. So Josh, since there's no questions, I'm going to just be respectful on other people's time.
Sure.
And thank you, for presenting, the claims as a differentiator. The leveraging data piece of the claims series. I really appreciate your time, and I thank everybody else for attending. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call or email us.
Thank you.
Thank you.